video, I'm going to show you how to create a step-by-step wizard and lead capture system for real estate agents using a plugin called WP Fluent Forms. So if you don't know, Fluent Forms is a new form builder for WordPress, and I've recently purchased a lifetime license for that plugin, and I wanted to use it in my first client project. This is actually a perfect opportunity to use a really good form builder that can do a little bit more things. So let's just go through the experience real quickly to see what exactly we're looking at building here. So this says here, get a free curated list of Toronto properties. Just need to pop in your email address. So I'm going to put in my admin email here and click on get your list. Now what this is going to do is it's going to pop us over into the next stage of this form, which is asking about how many bedrooms I'm looking for. So let's just put in 3. And you'll see that these boxes are nicely styled so that they look really, really big and easy to click. Hit next. How many bathrooms are you looking for? Hit 4, whatever. Hit next. When are you looking to buy? Let's just do 3 to 6 months. And the price range that you're looking for. So you can just move these sliders around and it updates that price. And then hit next. And what's your name? And I'll put Chris. And then there's a button that says get my list of homes. You click on that button and then it'll take you to a thank you page where you're asked to check your inbox, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that is basically the experience that we're going to be creating in this video. And basically, this essentially requires a bit of strategy and planning, because one of the things that I wanted to do with this particular experience is to have this email or this initial email address be a separate form, so that when you submit your email address here, we have an opportunity to create an integration that will send that email address to an email marketing system and add them to a list where you can put them on some sort of an email campaign or journey. And then I wanted that to happen whether or not the user completed the rest of this wizard. So I wanted that to be a separate form that then links out to another form, a second form that is basically the multi-step experience that we just went through. So to do this was fairly straightforward for the most part with Fluent Forms. Fluent Forms has all the functionality really pretty much for the most part baked into the plugin to get most of what this wizard does out of the box. It just took quite a bit of customizations in terms of custom CSS. I also had to, the price range slider, had to build that using some HTML. I basically coded that more or less from scratch. That was like the only part that was really not, there's no form field in Fluent Forms right now that has like the slider function. So I had to create a solution for that. Other than that, though, the linking of the two forms and everything is what I'm going to show you. So if we go into our backend here, we'll see Fluent Forms. And if I just go to all forms, we'll see what the two forms are that we created here. So the first one is the Property Finder Gate form. So this is the email form that then triggers this second form, which is the Property Finder. And now the only thing that I'm going to show you in the property in this gate form is that you can set in the confirmation settings, you can set the confirmation type to be a custom URL. And what that lets you do is it lets you specify a redirect URL. But you can also append to that the value of what was submitted in one of the fields for this form. Now this form only has one input, which is an email. And if you just click on this little, let me move my head here. If you click on the little ellipses here, you'll see that input options, you have email here. So if we click in here, you'll see if you click on that, it'll just add in that field name in here. So you just got to build out the query string. So I just put !email equals, and then that markup for that field. So that essentially is going to redirect the user to this URL with a query string that has an email variable that we can pull in from the second form. So if we go back to look at the other form here, we'll see what the other form looks like. So if we go to edit here, And so basically, this is the form here. So we got the first field being the email. Actually, sorry, yeah. So the first field is is an email field. If we just click edit here, you'll see it's an email address. But what I just did was I went to advanced options and I just added a class of hidden to that. And just by adding that class will automatically hide this field. You don't have to add any extra CSS. It'll just do it for you. And so that takes care of hiding this email field. But what I did is for the default value, you can click on this ellipsis button here and go to populate by get param. And then that will allow you to pull in, it'll basically just put in that get.email. And as long as in your query string, you have the question mark email variable in here, it's automatically going to pull that in as a default value. So this field, it's a hidden field, but it gets populated by the query string when you get redirected. Now, the only thing that I haven't done in this experience so far is to find a way of maybe redirecting the user if they land on this particular form and there is no email variable populated. Then I'd like to redirect them back to the initial gated email or gated form so that they can restart the experience. But I'll look at doing that in the future. And then in this first step here, this is basically the first step here, is also a set of radio buttons. So these are all options, and I have 1 through 6 here, 6 plus. And now before any sort of like custom work was done, these would just show up like almost exactly like the way that you see them in this drag and drop interface here. They would just have the radio buttons with the labels 1 through 6 plus on the right hand side. So this needed to be converted into those nice fancy boxes that appear to toggle on and off when you click on them. And I'll show you briefly how I've done that and where you can go to find the code to do that. And then so basically with Fluent Forms, you can, if you go to input fields here and you go to advanced, I believe you can drag in a form step, and that basically creates one of these breaks. And so you just create a form step, and that's going to make that sort of like the whole sliding effect happen. And it's going to bring in this next field here, which is, again, just another set of radio buttons. Then there's another step and another set of radio buttons, another step. And then this here is the price range slider. Now, this is a little bit more complicated. I'm going to get to that in a second. But then there's another form step and then a final field for your name and the button to get the list. So this slider here was a little bit tricky. Now, this here is basically just some custom HTML. And if I go to text, you'll see what that HTML looks like. It's basically setting up a custom slider that I initialized with JavaScript. And then these here, if we click on edit here, you'll see that this is a minimum price, simple text field, minimum price. And then under advanced, I've added the hidden class again so that it's hidden. And all I'm doing essentially, this here is just a maximum price. So these min and max price fields are text fields that are on the page, but they're hidden. And what I do essentially is this slider, I hook onto some event, like I just attach some event handlers to this slider that say, when the sliders are updated, update the respective text box with the new value. And I also have this price range display here where it displays to the user what the price range has been set to. And again, just with some basic jQuery that gets updated as well. So the same code that updates these two fields also updates this at the same time. And that's basically how the slider works. And that was pretty much it. So let's go to now, let's see, what should we do here? So let's go back to the property finder. Let's just restart this here. So let's go to admin at pdms.ca, and you'll see that our query string now is going to say that email equals admin at pdms.ca. If we look at the code here, you'll see that we've got a hidden field in here. Just resize this a little bit. But basically in here, email, and there you go. So there you see that there's an input here that's hidden, and the value is admin@pdms.ca. That got pulled in from the query string here, email equals admin@pdms.ca. And so that's how that essentially gets hooked up, so that this is a separate form. And then when this gets submitted at the end, we still retain that email from that first form, which is important because this information is all going to get integrated into a separate CRM. Like the first one's going to go into an email marketing system. This might be going into some sort of like a lead capture system. Like in this case, this was getting integrated into HubSpot. So now, how did we get these radio buttons looking so nice? Well, all you have to do is just do a search on Google for, like I just do a search for CSS style radio button as toggle. That's a search that I performed, and this is the article that I landed on here. Now I'll put a link to this article below the video so you can find it. But essentially, if you just go in here, you'll see that they have a CSS. This is a Codepen here, and they have the CSS here listed out for how to create this effect. And I essentially just got the CSS imported into my project and started playing around with it to get it to where I wanted it to look like. And if you want to take a look at what that looks like, this is the property finder form style sheet here, where you'll see all the different, like there's a lot of CSS in here. We've got about 230 lines of code or so. And this is doing all sorts of stuff to stylize this form. So let's go back here. Let's just do this quickly. These are all basically the same, right? Radio buttons styled as toggles. Same thing here. Now this price range is a little bit tricky. This was done with a little JavaScript library called noUiSlider. What I like about this is that it has no dependencies, so it doesn't require jQuery, it doesn't require any other libraries to make it work. And so the only thing you have to load is just this library, and that's it. So it's really lightweight, so it doesn't really bog the site down or anything like that. And it was pretty easy to use. The documentation's a little it leaves a little bit to be wanted, but there's a lot of examples that you can go through to work your way through it. But essentially, I just use this noUiSlider to do the markup, and you can get actually this to create the markup for this was really, really easy. You literally only need one single div with an ID. So basically, for that slider, the only thing that you really need is just this. And when you initialize the slider with this, using this div, the JavaScript library will automatically add all of the structure inside of this container that creates the entire slider. So you don't really need anything else. You just need this. Everything else that's in here is just in here because I wanted to create other elements. Like, for example, I wanted to create this lower and upper range label, so I had to add code in for that. I wanted to create this display area, so I had to add an extra code for that. And basically, what I'm doing here is attaching events to these little slider handles that says, when this handle is moved, then get that value of where the slider is, which is just a single, function in this library, and then update there's two hidden text fields in here. Update the two text fields with these new values, and then add that value into this display here. So if you want to look at what that looks like, and this is the JavaScript for the slider, and basically all of this is just for the slider. There's nothing else on the defined property entire experience or whatever that is really modified at all with this code. This is only for that slider. But basically here you'll see it says price slider, noUiSlider dot on update, and then you get the values for both this is an array, and this is the handle is the current handle that's being manipulated. And it basically will just go in here and will pull of these values. And it's just doing some formatting. Essentially, when you're looking at this display here, for this price range, to create that is really just this one line of code here. Values at 0 is the lower range of the handles, and values at 1 is the upper range, or the second handle. And so it's just, this is literally all you really need to do to get it to work. So that was basically it. From there, it's just a matter of completing the rest of this, and then connecting this up to all of the CRMs and everything. That's pretty much all there really is to it. I don't really know if there's anything else that I can really go into too much detail in this video. But if you do want to get some more information or examples with noUiSlider, what I suggest you do is go into Codepen and just do a search for noUiSlider. You'll see a bunch of projects people have put up here that have sample code of various things that you can do with it. Like this one was pretty cool because they have a noUiSlider that's not just controlled by the single handle, but also has controls that you can manipulate here, like buttons or whatever, which is pretty cool. But that's pretty much it in terms of Fluent Forms and what I used it for. I really used it for, one is the ability to do this multi-step form, which was really, really nice and was really easy to build out. I've never used this form builder before. I actually didn't even use any tutorial videos, or I didn't even look at any of the documentation for the plugin when I first started using this. I built out this entire form pretty much just intuitively, just because the UI on this plugin is fairly strong. So it was really, really easy to use. And from there, I really like the fact that you're able to insert your own custom HTML. I think that really makes this plugin quite handy because, personally, I'm very comfortable with, creating custom code and things like that. So it allows me to have a comfort level that if there's something that the form can't do, there's a very good potential that I can probably pull it off by just adding some custom code in here and being a little bit creative with how I manipulate these fields and things like that. So I thought that was really cool. The other thing that I thought was really cool about this plugin is that if we go into modules here, you'll see the list of integrations these guys have. These guys have no shortage of features coming out. Their roadmap looks really, really good. And you'll see here we've got HubSpot and Zapier currently activated. And essentially, the first gated form is that email is getting sent to a webhook with Zapier, and that is essentially getting relayed to, I believe it's Autopilot, which there isn't an integration for in here yet. So it's an easy thing to do with Zapier. You don't even need the paid plan, I don't believe, to do that, because I think it's just a single Zap. And then HubSpot, once the form is completed, then all of that contact gets entered into HubSpot. And I believe there's a HubSpot workflow or automation that takes care of then looking up the email that was added to Autopilot, and then updates the rest of the information into that record. So that's really cool that they have all these features in here, and you don't really have to worry about paying extra for them, which is really important to me. I like something that's more full featured, and I know I'm going to have all the tools and the features that I need from a plugin that I can use for years to come. So anyways, I hope you guys like this video. I hope it wasn't too long, but if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'd be happy to help. Cheers.